Good afternoon, and family, friends. It feels more like family than just friends. I truly want to acknowledge. I want to acknowledge a few people here that have played important in my personal life. Barbara Sanders was. We worked together for 10 years?
Maybe.
About 10 years. Here in the neighborhood on Linden and 92nd and Linden, Kings Highway, 252. Jackie Smart. We worked together. We worked together at August Martin for 7 years. 7 years before I retired. And we're still kicking it. Well, what does that mean, kicking it? And thank everybody else. And I really have to say thank you to Marcia Can and Clement Can. We all grew up in St. Louis together. Your grandfather's hometown. Yeah. So we're all from the real hood in St. Louis. The book. I want to also acknowledge Kimberly Acham, who's also a graduate of IS 252. She's my assistant, my goddaughter, and everything else that I need her to assist me with. And my wife, Diane, who is everything to me. That's most important. The book is dedicated to my ancestors. My grandparents on the Owen side of the family, which is my mother's side, and the Gatewood side of the family, which is on my father's side. I came up with that idea because I've always been interested in historical facts and documentation. The book took about 2 years, and I had to thank Ron Ali and Monique Ali. Ron passed in spring of 2020. He was the person who actually kind of got everything rolling for me with the acquisition of one of my paintings into the St. Louis Art Museum. And that kind of like opened up everything. From the note cards to the book. And I was at this reception in September of 19, I think, at the Ali collection, and it just clicked. Boom! You have all these curatorial people here. They're young, they have fresh ideas, and you've been thinking about this book. It needs to start now. And so that's actually when I actually started soliciting the curators to do the book. I have 2 curators, Alexa Assam, 3 curators. Alexa Assam, who's now at the Museum of Fine Art in Virginia, and Jade Powers, she's at the Camper Museum in Kansas City, Missouri, and I have an independent curator, and her name is Jan Castro, and she actually went to our high school together in University City. And I chose Jan to do the interview because she is from St. Louis, and if I was discussing something about St. Louis, she knew exactly what I was talking about. So there was no like trying to explain it because I knew she would know it. So the book process, when you first open the book, at the end pages, you'll see a quilt, and this quilt is on the Owen side of the family. This is a quilt that my mother my mother's mother gave my mother, and I actually inherited this quilt when my mother passed. And the back of the end pages is the back of my grandmother's quilt on my father's side, the Gatewood side. So this is actually the back of the quilt. The front of the quilt is in the front of the book. So I have to also recognize that I had a great production team when I did this book. Beverly Mattox. You know, it's a small world and everybody's connected. Her husband actually went to Beaumont in St. Louis, and my brother and her husband, they actually went to school down in Atlanta University, Morehouse, etc. Clark School. I think it's Clark College or something. Yeah, Clark University. So we're all like connected in some way regarding this book. If you have any questions, you want to just stop me, you can ask me questions about the text, et cetera, et cetera. So while I was in St. Louis, maybe about a year ago, I was talking to them and I said, you know, I'm looking for a printer, and I can't find a printer because the printers here on the East Coast are just crazy. And so I have to thank the St. Louis Art Museum for recommending the printing company called I.O. Color. No, that's not correct. The company is called Lucius Marquand, and they have a subsidiary called I.O. Color, who deals with independent artists like myself, but it's all under the same umbrella. And so as I was researching the company, I ran across Terry Atkins' book. I ran across Bisa Butler's book. Like, she's like hotter than a firecracker right now. She's at the Chicago Art Institute. And then they also did Alma Thomas's book, and she's at the Phillips Collection in DC. And her book is called, titled Everything is Beautiful. And I said, oh my God, this is a no-brainer. Sold. So I immediately called them up and I said, I want you guys to help me to produce this book. And let me back up. I had no idea how to put a book together when I started this project. And she may show up today. She said she was going to try to get her Malika Arrows. She worked for Simon & Schuster for about 25 to 30 years. So I saw her at a number of years ago. I saw her at a Hamlet Blewett memorial service, and I said, Malika, I need to talk to you. I need to talk to you. I'm trying to do this book. She said, call me. I said, okay. So I called her and I said, look, I need you to help me to outline how to do a book. What's your fee, whatever. And so she laid the whole idea out for me, and she gave me like an outline. And from there, it just, and I actually was trying to get her to be the copy editor, but she was in the middle of, she just finished Michelle Obama's book, the recent book. So she couldn't be the copy editor because she was already in a project. So that's how this book really came about. And I'm trying to think who else. I have a wonderful designer, Beverly.
Hello.
And Kimberly. The idea for the back of the book is Kimberly's idea. She said, you know, you're always talking about being different. So let me photo shoot you from the back, and we'll use that as a back cover. And I'm like, no, that's not going to work. It's not going to work. And so I was telling the designer, Beverly, I was telling her about it. She said, oh, try it. And so eventually they won me over. And it's been a success so far. The book has been really well received. People have been calling from all over the country and ordering the book, buying the book. And if my younger brother tells you, he says, oh man, you just like totally consumed. I said, yeah, because it's all about the book at this point. So there are 6 double fold-outs where you open the book up. These works are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are in the book, I know for sure. And this one too, I think is also in the book. So I tried to, I was trying to create something that, that I could have a family legacy. And this is the end result of this book, dedicated to my parents. And, you know, as a young black man growing up in St. Louis, in so-called middle class community, everybody's parents were wanting them to be a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer or an accountant. And my father told me, he says, as long as you stay in school, I'll support you. I said, Dad, I want to be an artist. I don't know how to be an artist, but I got to figure it out. He said, fine. So I thank my parents for that, and my grandparents, and all my uncles who have supported me, aunts, because I've had a lot of family support just to be here to talk to you today. Any questions? No?
I see you use a lot of symbolism in your work.
Yeah, I'm into symbolisms, but I'm kind of like into it abstractly. You know, people walk up to me and say, "Oh, I see a figure there." Yes, that's your vision. Yes, it's probably there subconsciously. Before I've always done the figure, but I'm not showing the figure at the moment right now. You know, I have paintings just last year that I've done figurative work, but I'm not showing them. The paintings are about our political situation that we as people of color, black people, etc., that we're facing every day when we challenge going to work, etc. It's about also music. I'm a big music fan. I mentioned already some musicians, Hamlet Blewett, who also is from St. Louis. And so I have these connections with musicians who sometimes call me and say, "Hey, I'm putting a CD together. I want to come over and listen to it on your sound system." I said, "Sure, come over." You know, before Howard Johnson, the tuba player, passed away, who played with John Lennon, he's played with the Beatles, he's played with Taj Mahal. He was at my house 1 year, and he said, "Man, if I had heard this CD before I put it out, I wouldn't put this shit out." I said, "Okay, I would, okay, out." So those kinds of experiences, this is what you see, that energy that the musicians are putting out. A good friend of mine, oh God, can't think of the percussionist, Warren Smith, lives on the east side, Manhattan. I had emailed him and I said, "Warren, I'm having this exhibition." I sent him a copy. He texted me back. He said, "Oh man, I hear music when I see your work." And I texted him back. I said, "Yeah, because I'm listening to you." So that is my experience, being able to facilitate a vision, an idea, and try to bring it in with different materials. In the paintings, you'll see glitter, you'll see iridescent colors, you'll see charcoal drawing, you'll see pastel drawings. Not in these paintings, but in some of the earlier paintings, you'll also see oil stick in the works. And I'm using circles at this point in my process because I was playing off the idea of Hank Mobley, and Hank Mobley said there's no room for squares. He did an album back in the day in the 60s on the Blue Note label. And I said, that's kind of interesting. So I started doing Sears circles and stuff like that. So that's pretty much where the ideas are coming from our community. Huh?
I noticed there's no titles. Is that on purpose?
The works are titled.
Okay.
The works are, these works behind me are from the Energy series, and then it will say untitled number, I don't know 2019, I think this is 2019-2022. So this is the 22nd painting in 2019. It's a database. So every painting in here is photographed and it's in my database. So you can call me and say, oh, I see this painting, and if you just give me the date or if you give me the untitled number, I can pull it up and we can talk about it almost immediately because it's in my database. Hi, Cole.
I heard you say about symbolism, but would you say that your work is like jazz?
It's about.
I mean, that's a good thing.
It's no, but I don't want to say jazz. I want to just say music.
Music.
Because it's about all our music. It's about you know, whether it's gospel, whether it's merengue, or whether it's calypso or whatever, it's here.
But you
Because
classify it when you say our music,
yeah,
as opposed to just music.
and I have another good friend of mine. Actually, he lives. What street is that? Maple? What street is that? What's the next street over?
Sterling.
Sterling. He lives on Sterling. He's a Brooklyn native. He's a classical composer. They, matter of fact, Priscilla Hall was here when they awarded him down at the courthouse. They gave him this big award from being a classical composer. He's all over the world. He's in Italy. He's in Amsterdam. He's in Germany. He speaks German. You know, so and he speaks Italian. So when I'm listening to music, it's not just so-called jazz music. My music span is everywhere. I wake up in the morning, I might want to hear doo-bop, or I might want to hear merengue, or I may say, well, today I'm listening to Fela. The other day I said, oh, I don't have any, who was that? Richie Haven. I had the LPs, but I didn't have the CDs. I ordered maybe 5 CDs of Richie Haven, so I've been listening to Richie Haven until I'm like, you know. Sumai, whose father is Nigerian, her mother is English. So, you know, who else? There's a young artist now that I'm listening to out of England. Oh, what's her name? Zora McFarlane. Junior Mervyn did a thing called Police and Thieves in the 70s or 80s. She did a retake on it, Police and Thieves, carrying their guns and ammunition, killing all the people. So it's mixed, you know. So I might want to listen to Bach, Beethoven, Javinsky. You know, it's not limited. Because because when you limit my conception and idea, if I limit myself to any one particular genre, that's limiting you. It's too vast. Because when we travel all over the world. You know, I'm in a record store looking for records or CDs. The guy says, oh, you can buy it in America. I said, yeah, but I see it here now. Put it in a bag and ship it to me. Because I know when I get back to the States, I probably won't order it. So it's about discovery, and that's what these paintings are about. You know, that's why you see all the different mediums and the material. They're all on paper, but the material or the mediums are different. You know, this painting here in the corner, you see some of the same thing with the painting here in the center, because they're done on large sheets, 50 by 60, 30 by 40. They're all individual paintings. These are all individual paintings. This is from the same painting, but this is different. This is a different painting. These are 3 different paintings, maybe 4 different paintings in this one painting. So when you look at the paintings and you look at the layering and what's underneath, there are 10 to 8 layers of paint just in this particular object here. But the painting is translucent because I want you to see all the layers. and how these things have developed over time. You know, and so I simplify them by doing the drawings to give you a rest. And I don't always do black, gray, and white, but for some reason that one captured my eye. And then with this one, it's very simple in terms of the black and white process. It's just to catch your eye and to slow you down. But with the painting itself, if there's depending on how the light is reflecting off the paintings, they will change colors because of the glitter and the iridescent colors. You know, back in the day when I was teaching, I think with you, I was teaching paper weave, and in 1995, I had this big show in Spiral Gallery at Lockhart and Pettis in Manhattan, and I showed these figurative works, and they were paper weave because that's what I was teaching my students. So I got that idea from my students because the students were feeding off of me, and I was feeding off of them. You know, I would have after-school drawing classes, and I would have before-school drawing classes and after-school drawing classes. The kids who wanted to go on to art school, you know, or try to get into high school. You know, one year I had one of my students, she won every competition that there was. I told her the next year, oh, you can't apply because you're going to win. Let some of the other kids win. You know. Oh, and that was Kim.
Oh, it was me?
Yeah. Seriously, because I had introduced her to Eli Kent, who was teaching. Where was he teaching at Parson?
So I can't remember at the time.
I think he was teaching at Parson, and so I contacted Leah. I said I have this young student. I want you to work with her. And he said, yeah. I said, yeah. And I said, she's really, really good. I said, she's better than me. And so after Eli started working, I forgot the NACP competitions.
AXO and the Blaze.
AXO, she won all those competitions every year. You know, and so she went on to NYU to major in fine art. I have students now who are, some student found me on social media and said, oh, I went to Somers. I said, yeah. She said, yeah. She said, oh, I'm an art teacher out on the island. I have 2 kids, and I'm an art teacher because of the stuff that you told me. She said, you scared the hell out of me. I said, okay, good. So, you know, that's my fulfillment, you know, with this whole art thing. And I haven't even begun to talk about all the artists that I've met over the years and the influences. You know, I was just texting another gentleman this morning. He had sent me something. I said, yeah, I was just closed with Norman Lewis at the Duke Hall Museum of Fine Art. That's at the James Madison campus in Virginia. And there were some very prominent artists in that show. Norman Lewis, Nanette Carter, Lisa Kareem Davis. She teaches at, Hunter. She's the head of the MFA program there.
You had a question back there.
Oh, hi.
Hey, Lamerol. Yeah, amazing body of work. Let me just say that first of all.
Thank you.
Magnificent book. Congratulations. I'm so proud that you're my homeboy.
Thank you.
But I'm interested, you know, I'm a writer, and I'm interested in knowing what, I know music is big, big, big in terms of your inspiration. How about writers? Have you been inspired?
I've been inspired by writers. You know, as you know, a good friend of mine is Quincy. Quincy Troop did the Miles Davis book back in the day. We're all from the same hometown. And oh God, don't, you know, I can't even remember a name of these writers, but you know, Toni Morrison and Alice Walker, and you know. Yeah, I can't hear you. You're sounding a little muffled, but I haven't been reading some of the fiction writers or nonfiction writers lately. I've been really focused on artists who've been putting out books. That's where my attention has been lately. But I've been influenced by a lot of writers. You know, Michael Castro who recently passed. Jan Castro, she's in the book actually.
Jan, yeah.
So those, you know, over the years, you know, I've been collecting their work and having, you know, it's almost like collectors, you want to become associated with the writers, you want to know them. Terry McMillan, you know, is a good friend of mine. Back in the day, we used to hang out in the village, you know, and people would call me and say, "Oh, is this real? Are those artists real in her book?" I said, "Yeah, they're real." I said, "We used to hang out with God, what's Clyde's last name? I forgot Clyde's last name. Clyde was at NYU, and he was the head of the African American Studies Department. And they would bring, you know, they would bring Baraka in. They would bring who's a filmmaker? I can't think of his name. Did Sweetback. The producer. Melvin Van Peebles. He would bring Melvin Van Peebles there, and all these people from all over the world. You know, and they would feature artists in their magazine. They actually shut that magazine down because it was too powerful and too radical. I think, and I just saw Ishmael Reed a few weeks ago, and I'm supposed to be in this magazine. Steve Cannon, who also is a writer, he passed a few years ago. He started this magazine called Tribes.
Yeah.
Steve Cannon was a brilliant writer, and I didn't know for many years Steve was blonde. Because I see him everywhere, you know. And so I just recently got an email from Tribe magazine asking me to send them samples of my work. So that magazine is going to come out, I think, this year.
You know, Quincy
The editor
better
for Tribe.
since his retirement.
Oh, and I think also Ishmael Reed is also. Yeah, they're all. So I just recently heard from them about that. So that's coming out.
Great.
I can't tell you when, but that's coming out. And so if it wasn't for the arts, boy, I'd be starving because I love hanging out with writers. and then I have a lot of friends who are in the publishing business, who work for Newsday, who worked for the Philadelphia Tribune and the New York Times, and so years ago I got hooked up with that circle. You know, they were buying my work back in the day. They were, at one time, a lot of them who worked for Newsday were living here in the 90s, but they have since gone on. Jackie, God, what's Jackie's name? Jackie Jones. She's now the director of the journalism school at Morgan State, I think.
Morgan State?
Yeah, Morgan State. She worked for Newsday back in the day. And so they're really big supporters. And so there's a whole nother side to the newspaper business or the publishing business or the industry, you know. So, yes. More questions? No?
Yes.
Hi.
Where did the name Lamerol come from?
That's a good question. I never asked my mother that. And you know, and the funny thing is, all through grade school, junior high, high school, I always went by Lamar, L-A-M-A-R, because it was short. And then when I got to undergrad, somewhere in between, I saw my birth certificate and it said L-A-M-E-R-O-L, Lamerol. People say Lamerol, Lamerol. You know, it's fine with me. And I was going to graduate, and I said, wait a minute, that's not my real name. I said, I want my real name with my birth certificate, Lamerol. And since then, I started using it. So, you know, and so even with like, this is personal, but even with like your Medicare and all that, I said Lamerol, but when I went to sign up for the draft in the 70s, I put Lamar. And so I haven't changed it. And so when I went to and get my Medicare and all that other stuff, I said, look, I have two names, Lamerol and Lamar. We're using both of them. Is it okay? And they accepted it because it's on my Social Security card. Because I'm not changing it at this point. So that's kind of how that evolved. The latter part of this body of work, because I'm trying to get out of this body of work, and I'm trying to figure out how to do that. And so the black and white is no different in terms of how I'm expressing it. It's just I'm choosing to use charcoal and only charcoal. I said, oh, it'll be nice to do a black, gray, white drawing for a change. Let's get out of color. I'm kind of like, you know, I need to move on. And so that just happened to be for a minute, and it worked. And so that's why I'm displaying it. I'm actually showing out, you know, visually. And I wanted to treat it differently than this painting in terms of how it's framed. So you'll see that all the frames are very different. You know, I used to be a framer, professional framer in the 70s. Another art student friend of mine asked me, he said, Gatewood, I'm working for a frame company. Would you like to get a framing job, custom frame house? And I said, sure, man, Dennis, sure. So in that, and working in that framing house, it allowed me to learn how to do gold leafing, to really pay attention to detail and all the nuances of custom framing. So everything in here, I custom frame myself. You know, there's not too many framers out here who can frame better than me. It's just whether I choose to do it or not, depending on how large the paintings are. And so, you know, and then I'll see other artists, how they frame their works. So I'll get those ideas also. I said, oh man, that's really framed really well. I can put one of my paintings, you know, so I get those ideas from looking at other framers. Yeah. So all these ideas, they're not all my original ideas. I'm always constantly borrowing from other artists. Anything else?
I noticed that some of your paintings aren't framed.
Right.
Why is that?
Why is that?
Yeah.
Because the gallery wanted me to show frames that were in, paintings that were in the book. And so, and professional framing is very, very expensive. You know, and so, in the last couple of years, I've had exhibitions where I've actually had the walls painted gray. And if the walls were painted gray, these paintings will look completely different. You know, if I send you an image of, yeah, that's 2017. That's actually here in Brooklyn. Yeah. Jackie, you were at that exhibition.
That's how I have the books.
Yeah. In 2017, I had a solo exhibition over on between 4th Avenue and 3rd on 24th Street here in Brooklyn, a small gallery. And they were asking me, what did I want from the gallery? And I said, I'm not having white walls. I'm having gray walls. Because I had saw another exhibition, they had gray walls. The guy had gray walls, but black paintings, and they just pop, boom. And so that's how that exhibition came about. And in 2019, I'm in the St. Louis Art Museum. They had already did the research on me. And because I was from St. Louis and the collector was from St. Louis, they gave me the prominent spot like this wall here. And that was the only gray wall in the gallery. And they popped my painting on that gray wall. I walked in, I said, oh, they did the research. So that's amazing. But that's what curatorial people do. They research you. That's what librarians do. They research you. I've had librarians to call me and say, Gatewood, I really like your book. And I said, why? They said, because you indexed it. You'll see a lot of art books, they don't have an index. But I did the research. This book just didn't happen. I mean, I really looked at a lot of books. I was buying art books, a lot of art books. I was buying two. I was buying one for me and one for the designer. And I said, I have to buy two books because I need to send you one so we could be on the same page discussing these ideas that I have in my head. But I want you to have creative freedom to lay this book out. And that's what I gave Beverly. I said, you're the designer, I'm not the designer. And even when you look at my social media, my Facebook, my Instagram, I have Beverly, my designer, she does all that stuff. I said, you design it, you lay it out. This is what I want you to do. And I have to give thanks to Vixen. Many years ago, Vixen, we ran into each other, I think, at the gallery. What's the name of that gallery? God, I can't think of the name of the gallery.
Brooklyn Arts Fellowship.
Brooklyn Arts. And he walked up to me and he said, I want to do a 1-minute video of you. He said, I'm doing these 1-minute videos. I said, okay. So he did this 1-minute video. It's on my website now. And so I liked how he edited and put it together 1 minute. And so I called him. I said, Vixen, I have a job. I have two jobs for my upcoming exhibition at the Jennings Gallery, the Wilmer Jennings Gallery in Manhattan. I want you to videotape the book signing and the workshop. And so I called him back last week. I said, Vixen, I have another job for you today. So he's here because I was impressed with his 1-minute videos. And that's how all this came about. Yeah. Supporting other artists, supporting the community. Yeah. Because I've had a tremendous amount of community support. A lot of my neighbors on Rutland, just 2 blocks over, they were at my book signing and my workshop back in November. I was quite surprised. So that's how it's been working. You know.
What brought you to New York?
Oh God. A lot of things brought me to New York, but primarily Ed Clark, who recently died. Vincent Smith, who died years ago, and I'm naming artists, Al Loving, Herb Gentry, who was in Switzerland. He had came back. Samela Lewis, Dr. Samela Lewis did a write-up on him. I was like in grad school or undergrad, and I said, I want to be in New York hanging out with these cats, because that's where it's at. So in grad school, I was a little older when I went to grad school. I was in my 30s because I was working for, I had worked for McDonnell Douglas Aircraft as a tech illustrator. And I loved the job, but I didn't like the job. I knew I wasn't going to stay. It was just a stepping stone. So the day of my graduation, let me back up. Another artist friend of mine, we drove to New York so that I could figure out how to, I said, if I'm moving to New York, I gotta have a job. And I remember when I was in undergrad, I majored in fine art, and I had an art education K through 12. I never used that degree for over 10 years until I moved to New York. I said, oh, rent $600, $800, $900. I need a real job. So I applied for a job with the Board of Ed because I knew I could get job security and I could pay both my rents in St. Louis and here in New York. So it was primarily the artists that brought me here and the writers. As I mentioned earlier, Quincy Troop would always come by the studio. I can't use the profanity that he would say when he was in my studio. When you come in MF to New York, I said, Quincy, I'm coming as soon as I finish grad school. So when I graduated grad school, I told my wife, Diane, I said, I'm moving to New York. She said, when? I said, today. So the day I actually graduated with my MFA, I moved to New York. That was in 1986. You know, and I was at Citibank, and I was trying to get a checking account at Citibank, and this brother said, "Where were you teaching?" I said, "I'm teaching part-time at Brooklyn Tech." He says, "You want a full-time job?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Oh, I know Frank Mickens at Boys and Girls. I can get you in." I said, "Okay." So I'm, you know, at that time, this was like 86, yeah, 86. And I got there a little early. They wouldn't even let me in the door. So I can't even remember the brother's name. So when the brother walked up, we walked in Frank Mickens' office. I said, "Hello, how are you? I'm an artist. Here's my bio." He says, "You hired." Just like that.
Wow.
At Boys and Girls High School. That was before I didn't get to Somers until 88. The fall of 87, 88. And Mickens wanted me to stay, but he wanted me to be in woodworking, but he had already had it. I told this woodworking guy, I said, "Look, you already have a degree. I'm not a woodworker, I'm a painter." I said, "I'm gonna leave, so they're forcing to keep you." So I left and went to District 18. And I stayed at District 18 for quite a number, 20 years, I think. I appreciate everybody coming, and thank you so much, and for your support. It's been a very interesting, amazing ride with this book project.
Like I said, I've known Gatewood for a long time, and back then, in the late 80s, we were going to a gallery on Vanderbilt Avenue called Spiral Gallery, and Jim Powers, who just passed away a year and a half ago from COVID. And that's where it was a booming gallery with young people, Gatewood, Leroy Campbell, Willie Talbot, Verna Hart, Danny Simmons. I mean, just a great group. And I don't want to tell my age or anything. Nadine DeLawrence, oh my goodness. Stanley Barnes. But roll it forward 35 years later, and for me to see these guys and what they're doing, for me to see Gatewood and the book and having shows here, there, and everywhere, and our buddy Ron down in Petersburg,
Virginia.
It's such a beautiful thing, and to think that we can be here at Dorsey's for a book signing with you, I consider that a privilege and an honor to have you.
Thank you.